Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a Simorgh deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck is an amazing budget deck that basically revolves around summoning out really large birds to your side of the field to just go in for game, which is super amazing for this deck to be able to do, and it does it very effectively. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting your requested deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing two copies of Simorgh, Lord of the Storm. This card is a great boss monster for the deck that has some really insane effects. That your opponent cannot target this tribute summon card with spell or trap effects, which is a pretty good effect to basically just give this a little bit of protection. It also has the ability that you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that when a spell or trap or effect is activated, quick effect, you can tribute a Wind Wing Beast monster, and then target one card your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. And when a Winged Beast monster you control is destroyed by battle, while this card is in the graveyard, you can add this card back to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to just get this card back over and over again if it leaves the field. We then play three copies of Simorgh of Darkness. This card is a great 3-of and a great boss monster for the deck, and probably my favorite Simorgh card in the entire game, that has the ability that while face up on the field, this card is also a wind attribute, and you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn. That if you tribute summon a dark or a wind monster, you can special summon this card from the graveyard or from your hand, which is a great effect to be able to just get two really large birds on your side of the field and go in for a game. It also has the ability that when a spell or trap or effect is activated, quick effect, you contribute a Wind Wing Beast monster and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card, which is a great effect to basically just be able to special summon out a 2900 attack point Wing Beast that's also a walking negate. We then play a single copy of Dark Simorgh. This card is a great 1-of in here. I actually have considered bumping this card up to 2 in this build, but 1 seems to work out really well. It has the ability that while this card is facing on the field, it's also treated as a wind monster, and you can remove from play a dark and a wind monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And then you can remove from play a dark and a wind monster from your hand to special summon this card from the graveyard. And your opponent cannot set any cards, which combos very well with our copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, basically making it so our opponent can only put cards face up on the field, which is a super interesting concept for this deck. We then play three copies of Danger Thunderbird. Danger Thunderbird is basically here because it's easy to summon to your side of the field and is a great level 8 to put on the field. It has the ability that you reveal this card in your hand, your opponent randomly picks a card in your hand and discards that card. Then if the discarded card was not Danger Thunderbird, you special summon this card to your side of the field, and if you do, draw a card. But if this card is discarded, then you get to target a set card your opponent controls and destroy it, which is a pretty good effect. We then play three copies of the new Simorgh Bird of Perfection. This card is a great 3-of and helps out the deck a lot because it has the ability that while face up on the field, this card is also a wind attribute. And you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that during your main phase, if you normal or special summon a Winged Beast monsters, you can reveal this card in your hand to immediately after this card resolves, gain an additional normal summon of a Simorgh monster. And if this card is normal summoned, you can send a Simorgh monster from your deck to the graveyard to add a Simorgh spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is really helpful. This card basically does it all for the deck and is a great 3-of. We then play three copies of Simorgh Bird of Calamity. You really do need kind of 2 to 3 of this card. I did consider bumping it down to 2 since we got Bird of Perfection, but for right now I'm playing 3 copies of this card. When this card is normal summoned, you can send a Simorgh card from your deck to the graveyard except another copy of itself, and if this card is in your graveyard and your opponent controls no cards in their spell and trap card zone, you can special summon this card in defense position but banish it when it leaves the field. Also, you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except Winged Beast monsters, which is not that big of a deal because the majority of the stuff we're summoning is going to be Winged Beasts anyways. We then play three copies of Simorgh Bird of Bringing. This card is a good card in the deck because this card, when it's normal summon, can add a Simorgh card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, and it shares the exact same ability as the Simorgh Bird of Calamity, that if your opponent doesn't have a spell or trap card on the field, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field, but it does lock you into Winged Beasts. We then play three copies of Simorgh Bird of Beginning. Bird of Beginning is really good in this deck because it gives you an additional normal summon with the ability that when this card is normal summon, summon, you can activate this effect that during the main phase, this turn, you can normal summon one Simorgh monster in addition to your normal summoner set, and you can only use this effect once per turn, and then it shares the exact same effect that if this card's in the graveyard, your opponent doesn't control a spell or trap, you can special summon this card to your side of the field, but banish it when it leaves the field, and it locks you into Winged Beasts. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom as well. Ash Blossom is really good in the deck because basically just stops your opponent from touching the deck, which is always great in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is really good to get to our field spell, so you got to play it as a one-of. 1 copy of Foolish Burial to get the exact Simorgh monster we need in the graveyard. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is really good to basically just get rid of all of our opponent's back row so we can go in for our Simorgh monsters. 1 copy of Call by the Grave because we don't want to be hand-trapped in this deck, so this card is really good. We play 3 copies of Simorgh Onslaught, which is one of the best searchers in the entire game in this archetype. It has the ability you can discard a Winged Beast monster to add 2 Simorgh monsters from your deck to your hand with different attributes from the deck to your hand, which is so good for this deck because we now have an extra dark monster that we can search in this deck. It's just super helpful. It also has the ability you can banish this card from the graveyard, reveal a Winged Beast monster in your hand, and if you do, reduce the level of all monsters in your hand with that card's name by 1 for the rest of the turn, which is a pretty good effect, especially with some of our cards being high levels. We can actually use this card in combo with a bunch of other cards in the deck to get it where we can normal summon our Simorgh monsters for 1 tribute, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of Elborz. Elborz is a great 3-of as well. It's the field spell that has the ability to all-win Winged Beast monster that you control, gain 300 attack and defense, and you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that you can reveal level 5 or higher Winged Beast monster in your hand. This turn, you can normal summon that card for 1 less tribute, which is super good for this deck to be able to just normal summon your monsters for 1 less tribute. It also has the ability that if you control a Winged Beast monster, you can immediately have Scarp Zal's normal summon a Winged Beast monster, or normal summon a Winged Beast monster, which is super helpful to be able to just get an additional monster on your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Trade-In. Trade-In is just a 2-of to me in this build. It really just helps out to be able to draw additional cards, to be able to discard cards like your Simorgh of Darkness that can basically doesn't care if it's in the graveyard or on the field, to let you draw 2 additional cards is always great in this deck. I actually did consider playing this card as a 3-of, but for now I'm playing it as a 2. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. Anti-Spell Fragrance is so good in this deck, comboed with your copy of Dark Simorgh. Has the ability that both players must set spells before activating them, and they can't activate them the same turn they were set. But with Dark Simorgh on the field, it basically makes it so your opponent can't set any cards, so it locks your opponent down from setting any traps or any spells, which is pretty good, or any monsters, which is really, really good. So at this point, they're basically only able to activate traps directly from the hand, like Impermanence, and normal summon monsters to their side of the field, which is a great lockdown tactic for this deck. We then play 3 copies of Harpy's Feather Storm. This card is a great 3-of. It has the ability, if you control a Winged Beast type monster until the end of this turn, negate any monster effects that your opponent activates, which is just a great effect to be able to just be a complete blanket monster effect negation. I love this card as a 3-of in the deck, and it helps out so much in this build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Doom Eagle. Doom Eagle is a good 1-of in here because it has the ability to gain 2,400 attack, while your opponent has no monsters in their graveyard. So this card, upon link summoning, goes up to 48 if your opponent doesn't have a monster in their graveyard. And then quick effect, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and shuffle it into the deck, which can be very helpful for us to be able to get the exact card that our opponent needs in the graveyard out of the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. If you're looking for a more of a budget option for this deck, you can play Boral Sword if you want to, but it is a really good card to be able to get you additional pops, but basically you're just looking for a good Link 4 in this position. But Access Code Talker is just really good because it gives you those pops, which is always nice, and gets absolutely humongous. We then play a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Cerberus to pop monsters. These are basically here because they deal with the exact card that you need, all 3 of these cards. 1 copy of IP Masquerena because it lets you go into Unicorn during your opponent's turn. 1 copy of Linkuriboh because it's super easy to go into this card with Bird of Beginning. 2 copies of Alamirage. Alamirage is basically just here because when you normal summon one of your monsters, you can actually get it off the field with your copies of Alamirage, which is always nice to be able to go for additional plays later on once you have the Alamirage on the field, and you have one of your birds that can put itself back on the field in the graveyard, which is why I play this card as a 2-of in this build, because it combos very well in this deck. We then play a single copy of number 97. Number 97 is here because it lets you special summon out number 100 or number 38, which is always nice to give you a monster negate or a spell trap negate or a 9,000 attack point monster. You can change them out for other rank 8s if you want to, but basically just use these 3 slots as additional slots for rank 8s of whatever card that you can basically pick up. We then play a single copy of Dingirsu. Dingirsu is really good and a really good rank 8 in this deck because when it's XZ summon, you can send a card on the field to the graveyard, which is always nice for this card's effect. One copy of number 84, Pain Gainer. Pain Gainer is really good because you can put it on top of your Dingirsu and then make Zeus to be able to board wipe, which is always nice for this deck. Now keep in mind, as you play this deck, you don't really need the extra deck all that much, except for maybe the copies of Alamirage, and Doom Eagle is something that I summon quite often in this deck, so it's really kind of up to you what you want to play in the deck if you want to make it a little bit more budget. Another option for you guys, if you want to change out the Ash Blossoms for Effect Veilers or another hand trap to make it a little bit more budget, is an option for you guys if you're looking to make a really budget Simorgh deck profile. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. It's super fun to be able to play, and I love that the Simorgh core is just so cheap to be able to pick up all the cards like your Simorgh Lord of the Storm, Simorgh of Darkness, all those cards. They're just super cheap and really fun to be able to play. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.